What's up, Internet? Welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for joining me again. This one, I wanted to start off by being a bit vulnerable. I strongly considered sidelining this episode, not because I don't think it's important, but because, for honest, topics like these are super divisive, especially when you are sort of talking about people's golden cows. A lot of people immediately turn away when you talk about things like politics or especially their favorite political leader. And I'm going to be honest, some of my flesh, some of my fear of man even was saying to me, like, if you do this, that could really prohibit the podcast from growing. And I felt strongly in that moment that that was the deciding point on whether or not I would release it, because I would rather be obedient to what I feel the Lord pushing me to say rather than seek success. If success ever comes, awesome. But I don't want that to be my focus. When it comes to this podcast, I want to be obedient and I want to try to drive people towards Jesus. And when it comes to this topic in particular, I have noticed that many conservative Christians have nearly made an idol, if not flat out made an idol, of Trump and Elon. I have for a long time noticed that these people are just the same as every other politician out there. And this episode is sort of the way for me to back up why I say that. Because honestly, if you followed me on Facebook for any amount of time or even Instagram, you probably know that I say all the time, 2 wings, 1 bird. I believe that wholeheartedly. I mean, in episode 8, Brock and I discussed why it is that politicians can't actually change anything because of the fraud that America is in, because of the corporation that America is, the fact that we are no longer under the jurisdiction of the Constitution. I just want to reiterate that when it comes to America as a whole, until the fraud of the 14th Amendment, the Organic Act, the Emergency Banking Act, all of these things, until those are negated, there's not a politician out there that can, quote unquote, save us the way that people think that Trump and Elon are saving us. One of the things happening right now, this has been a couple months since we recorded this episode originally, but the Social Security, quote unquote, scam. Elon and Trump are claiming to have found all these different fraudulent payouts. And while I agree that is a fraudulent issue, it's one of those, here's the problem we want you to look at, don't look at the real problem situations. It makes them look like heroes. But ultimately, they're doing the same things the globalists do. I mean, Elon himself with his Tesla and with his push towards self-driving semis and vehicles, we know that that's effectively what the globalists want. They want us to have fully electronic vehicles. They want those vehicles to be hackable so they can stop us from going somewhere, the same way that in Canada, when the trucker rally happened, they were able to remove funds from people's bank accounts. This is also happening in Ireland and in England. Trump and Elon are laying the groundwork for this type of tyranny. They're putting the systems in place that will allow all of this. When it comes to the biometric scanning before the presidency even began, it's the same thing as the Patriot Act. They said that it was for terrorists, but ultimately they've proven since then that they use it on American citizens. They aren't for freedom if they are enacting this type of policy. And we get into it more into this episode, but I need you to know this when we get into this. I do not believe that Trump is too far gone. I believe he could still be saved. However, I do not believe at all that the fruit is there. I do not believe that he is a Christian the way that he is claimed. I do not believe that he has America first as his policy. I do not believe that he is counter to the globalist agenda. Albert Pike once said, and this is the man that is already 2 for 3 when it comes to predicting how the world wars would go. He once said that when the people need a hero, we will provide him one. I believe wholeheartedly that Trump truly is the controlled opposition. But the reason I needed to make this episode was because the idol that people have made of Trump, of politics in general, I feel a deep conviction to tear that down. Hear me correctly. The people that voted for Trump purely because he felt like the better option, I have no quarrel with you. That's not the person that I have a problem with. Because honestly, if I believed in the voting system, I would have done the same thing. All that aside, this sets a fire in me more so because of the idolatry of it. If people weren't raising Trump up on a platform as if he was the Christ himself, and I know most people won't say that flat out, but they treat him that way. If it wasn't for that, I don't know if I would say anything on this podcast. Lay down the idol of political theater and get back to trusting that Jesus is the only way. No man on earth today is going to save us from anything. We have to trust that Jesus is in charge regardless, whether Trump is a good guy or the terrible guy that I think he is, that Jesus is still in charge. I hope you hear my heart. I hope that you listen with an open mind, and I hope that this episode, if nothing else, provokes you to accept that maybe what we all think is true isn't always the whole truth. And last thing, this may be a theme on the show, but this is not where I want to focus. So if this isn't your thing, I understand that. I won't be hitting this nail on the head all the time. I won't be kicking a dead horse. I may touch this a little bit here and there, but ultimately, this whole podcast is going to be a broad spectrum of topics, and this episode's out of obedience. Next week's episode is on Dr. Michael Heiser's Deuteronomy 32 worldview, and so we're going to get back into some theology stuff. After that, it's an episode about eschatology, and I hope you guys enjoy those. I hope you enjoy this one as much. Either way, thanks for listening. And at the end of this episode, Joe has a word, a prophetic revelation that she had about Trump as well. So with that, let's get right into the episode. What's up, Internet? Welcome back to the Fringe Faith Podcast. Today we're going to get into something a little bit different. I feel as though the church cultures that I walk in are a little too up to their necks in the political sphere. So much so that I feel as though our republicanism, though I am not identifying as a Republican, it has become a bit of a golden calf as well. The Trump ideologies and the man himself have become a bit of a golden calf in the church. And what I am not saying is that we're going to promote liberal ideologies. Absolutely not. We're not saying that Kamala or Biden would have been good picks. We're not saying that any other Republican would have been good picks for the nation's presidency. If I believed that the nation's presidents were actually chosen by the people and that it wasn't already corrupt from the start, then I would maybe think Trump was the better option due to the fact that based just on values alone, I would go with the conservative side. However, because Trump has been glorified as more than a political figure and has been noted as basically a hero of the people, I find this problematic for a multitude of reasons. And today I have brought on a couple of friends, the co-hosts of the Spiritual Gangsters podcast, both Theresa and New York Patriot. I forget your actual name, dog. What was it?
Nick. It's
Nick,
Nick.
that's
I don't
right.
actually, you know what? I probably need to change that. I don't even go by my Patreon anymore. I just go by Nick.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Okay,
yeah, I
beautiful.
left that in there the last time I probably used Zoom.
That's funny. Yeah, and then the last time we talked on y'all's podcast a few years back, that's how you were still going. So
Yeah. Yep.
beautiful.
He was
Well,
he was incognito for a while.
yeah, exactly. So, I figure we could start with a little bit of, like I said, I mean, you guys agree with me. The liberal side of the aisle is not the way to go either.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with that. I don't think they're an answer either.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, like you said last time, Thomas, when I came on, just me,
Hmm.
you came up with the term radical middle.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think all three of us would fit into that category, which is funny because we all have a little bit different beliefs,
Hmm.
yet we'd all ride the radical middle.
Exactly. Especially when it comes to the political side of things. But
Yeah, exactly.
I feel as though most of the left side of the aisle is borderlining, maybe not most, that's too broad of a brush. But the at least what's shown to the public is becoming more and more socialistic and borderline communistic, and that's just not good. But then on the flip side, the Republican side, I've always seen as sort of the tail of the proverbial snake eating itself. You know what I'm saying? It's always following the liberal side, but it's never, it pretends to fight against, but it isn't. We all have heard the terms two wings, one bird. And I think we're gonna prove that out a bit. Now, Trumpy boy has been hanging out with some interesting characters recently. Have you guys seen how he's hung out with like even Bill Gates recently?
Yeah,
Did you hear
right?
did you hear
I
much
think
about
Bill
that?
Gates admitted that they hung out actually.
Yes, it was
They
That's
had
in
how
like
I found
a
out about his Bill Gates admitting
like a 3 hour lunch or something.
hmm And Bill Gates claimed that he
the
was
vaccination stuff.
optimistic about things. Yeah, the vaccination stuff.
Yeah.
We saw the AI vaccinations come out immediately after inauguration.
Yo, that was crazy. His
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
day in, he's talking about a cancer vax, AI cancer vax. I was like, what? Yo,
Yeah.
and then every Trump fan in Qatar was just like, I didn't hear nothing. I didn't hear nothing. I was only
Hey,
screaming my head off 4 years ago about this shit. I didn't hear nothing.
yeah.
5D chess.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, it's
Honestly.
and then there's the hypocrisy of, Operation Warp Speed. What I don't understand, and I don't want to crap on people. I guess I want to my
I was
intended
a huge Trump
audience.
fan and a Q-tard for like 6 months. So, I mean,
Fair
I'll
enough.
say I drank the Kool-Aid
It
for
happens,
until I
you know.
realized I was like, this shit is no, this makes no sense.
Yeah, yeah, fair, yeah. No, I that's fair. I mean, they say that you have to sort of red pill first, and then you carry on, and you recognize that it's actually all messed up. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That was my
my
red pill. Was like QAnon is bullshit.
but my intent on this is to reach the people that as much as possible, the people that will listen. I don't want to come at them like, oh, you guys are, dumb for not seeing it. Because I understand, you want a champion, you want somebody to fix what's broken. But then there's clearly a lot of cognitive dissonance right now. I mean, just think of, Elon with his, little salute that he did, and everybody's trying to pass it off as something else, but then immediately turning back around and they're like, okay, well, if we can't pass it off as something else, then we'll just point out all these liberals who have done the same thing. So for me, I guess what I was thinking about earlier is that we all know that the liberal side's a problem. We all know that their policies would not be good for anybody, but we all already know that the kettle's black. So now we need to recognize that the pot is black as well.
Yes. So I was just gonna say something about Trump real quick. Also, did I ever tell you that I met him?
Did you?
I did. I've
Before or
told
after the presidency stuff?
long before. It's not really that big a deal, honestly. But it's like now that he's president, like it's weird because
Hmm.
that I even was in the same vicinity as him. So I used to have this job in advertising, and there was these thing called upfronts, which is like these parties where they debut the new like fall TV schedule like in the summer. So
Yeah.
like the media buyers and planners like me, that was my job, get to preview what's coming and then we can plan our campaigns accordingly and know where to spend money on what network and blah blah blah. So I was at the Global TV. I'm in Canada, so Global TV is a channel here, network, whatever. Upfronts. And The Apprentice was in like its first or second season, maybe the second one, because I feel like I'd already heard of it.
Hmm.
And he came to promote the show and he like gave a talk and like I swear to God though, this guy, he has like such a huge alpha energy. I can't even explain to you. Like he took that stage, like he took control of the whole room. Everyone was completely mesmerized and like you could have heard a pin drop in there. It was so quiet. And these are like all rowdy, like fun times advertising people that half of them are hammered, half are like one drink in the bag. Like everyone's there and just like looking at him like, whoa, you know? And he's like, whatever, like a real estate developer at the time. Like, who is Donald Trump? Like, really? Just like an American personality, let's say, right? And we're just this room of Canadians and we're like, oh my God. And then then after, he was like mingling in the crowd, and he came over to like my team, or that I was part of. I'm like a nobody. I'm like a junior media planner. Like I'm nobody in this. And he comes over and he shakes everybody's hand. My superior like introduced me. This is Theresa. She works on our team. He shook my hand like so firm. Nice to meet you. Like eye contact like this. Like he is like in the moment with everybody. He's very good at what he does. He's a schmoozer, a shaker. Like he makes you feel important. I can see how like girls would just like fawn all over that
Yeah.
like nonstop. Like he'll just be like, he's so powerful. Even like he makes alphas like shake like that. He's the dominant, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So it was an interesting experience. But I have to say, he was very nice,
Yeah.
you know, from like the little interaction that we had. But I think honestly, my take on him is that he will be the best president America ever had. And I only say it, I'm not even saying it like in a joking way. Like I really I'm serious because America, like you said, Thomas, is a corporation.
Yes.
Donald Trump is like the ultimate CEO. He's a businessman. So if he's going to run as president, he is the CEO of America Inc. And he's going to do a really good job for you guys.
Hmm. Yeah,
Now,
as
is
far as that
that
goes,
like
yeah.
a good thing for the world? I don't know. I honestly don't think so
Yeah.
in many ways. But is he going to do good at his role? Absolutely. And he's a reality TV star, and that's literally America's number one export is your entertainment and your pop. You are the lead of popular culture around the world. That is your number one export.
Yes. Yes.
So yes, he's going to do phenomenal.
And when you consider the fact that the CIA has had their hands all up in our entertainment business, he's a personality. The fact that he's an alpha, that just lends itself to the culture that we live in right now, where everybody's looking for that kind of energy.
Yeah.
You got the Gary V's and all that that are super popular for a good reason. And then you've got guys like Trump that have come in, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily for a good reason. But yeah, so we've already touched on a couple of little things, the fact that he's becoming sort of buddy buddy with Bill Gates, and the AI vax thing. What about Operation Warp Speed? His fan base hates it, and yet still, for some reason, even though the majority of us recognize that the mRNA stuff is massively problematic, they're willing to overlook the fact that he loves that. We did the best job with the Operation Warp Speed that ever could have done. It's the best thing that we did.
Yeah,
Um,
well, he can call himself the father of the vaccine, right?
yeah, exactly.
So it's a little bit scary. I mean, now that we are a few years out, we can see there's a lot of problems with
Right.
that.
Let's say we give him the benefit of the doubt there. What about old Elon? What do you guys have to say about him?
I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think his vaccinations is a good thing either. Actually,
Right, right.
I think he came back the second time because he knew the first one was going to cause cancer, and that's why he has another one for cancer coming out.
Yeah. That's definitely one of the big.
You think about it, a lot of vaccines start showing side effects about 5 years in, so he's perfect to see what his first one did.
Hmm.
That guy's
Hmm.
gonna fuck this country left and right.
Right, right. Well, look at and then yeah, but look at Elon right now. He's hanging out with him. He's become one of his top dogs. Elon's been on the U.S. defense payroll for a long time.
Yep.
So I also see like people keep saying that he's the freedom guy, right? Because he bought Twitter. But
No.
then did you guys see that he went off on a tangent about bringing over immigrants for work? And anybody that disagreed with him, he got belligerent with and started kicking off of X.
I've heard that. Okay, I wasn't really on X/Twitter before. I'm only very loosely on it because of the podcast. But I've heard that it's more censored than ever. And then now to get seen at all or be swept up in the algorithm, you've got to be verified, which you have to pay $8 a month, right? For your blue little check mark, which we can talk about the occult symbolism of that alone. It's bizarre.
Mm.
But yeah, I've heard it's like more censored than ever. And then did you guys hear about what Kanye West just was posting?
I briefly, but I didn't hear like exactly what.
Well, apparently, this just before we started hitting record, he was posting hardcore pornography,
Oh,
like nonstop, like streams of it. And people were like, "Oh, ban Kanye off of Twitter."
well, I
Blah
heard he
blah
was
blah.
going off about the a certain type of
That
person
too.
recently.
Yes, a certain religion slash
You see that
ethnicity.
video people made against it?
Mm-mm.
No.
You had a whole bunch of like God, I can't. You had Zuckerberg in there. I think Seinfeld was in there. Bloomberg. A whole bunch of people are wearing a shirt now that has a middle finger and it says "fuck Kanye" and it has like the true star on it.
Oh my.
They actually just it said something that says like "enough is enough" and it was Lenny Kravitz. A whole bunch of just random people. It was probably about 20 people in this video, like all showing that they're wearing their shirt.
Mm.
So yeah, people are
Standing with
calling.
Ukraine.
Some friends.
Well, if he's literally posting hate speech and not only hate speech, but like illegal pornography, like why is he not being banned, but yet Elon is letting that slide?
Mm.
Like what? This makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I keep looking back to the fact that when the trucker convoy happened, he comes out and goes, "I support you guys," and then the very next day comes out with electric semis, the announcements of that, as if to say, "Yeah, I support you, but I'm taking your jobs in a few years." You know what I mean?
Mm,
I know a lot of people that love Trump and hate the globalist agenda
mhm,
because they recognize that it's true. The problem is we know, I mean, the electric vehicles are exactly what's necessary for any globalism to happen, right? In order to kind of confine people, you have to limit their ability to travel, and you can do that perfectly with electric vehicles. And then there's his whole Baphomet profile picture with the Baphomet on the chest plate.
Talking about Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the guy's an occultist. I think
Yeah.
basically, in my opinion, you have Hitler and Himmler up there right now.
oh,
So
right.
when Teresa and I talked on the last podcast, we were talking about you guys' shows, and she gave a little bit of background. But let's go ahead and, I guess, since we're kind of jumping all over the place anyway, what's your background here in as far as the occult goes? For the audience, why do you know so much about it?
Well, it's just like since a lot of it, it's just like kind of like the symbolism and stuff, or just even like looking at things from the past. But I wasn't I guess I still am an occultist. I studied the occult probably since like 2010. I was in the OTO for about 5 or 6 years. That's a secret society. I was in that for a little bit. I still study the occult. I'm big into the Kabbalah, planetary magic,
Hmm.
a whole bunch of different stuff, gematria, physiology.
So you've studied this stuff for a long time. So when you say that you think that he's an occultist, there's good reason behind that.
Well, yeah, it's just just my opinion. I do so. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff I've seen Elon Musk do that just seems very occult. Like I've even like it's hard to explain. But like even his me and Teresa and other people on the show have talked about how inside the eyeball, there's a lot of occult symbolism, in my opinion, in there. And when you look at the way the cornea is under an electromagnetic microscope or X-ray, whatever, it's like silver or just black. That's all you see. The cornea of the eye looks exactly like the thing that Elon puts on the bottom of the screen when he's showing his shit launch with all the numbers and everything changing. So it's like you're even like, yo, like this guy's even like literally using like an image from the eyeball.
Hmm. And the eye, the single eye symbolism is heavy in occultism, right?
Yeah, yeah. My
Yep.
opinion. I mean, just very much like he's very like Jack Parsons on steroids, in my opinion.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
there's this Satanistic thing with the emblem right on his chest plate, and then there's the have you seen his AI stuff that he's released? So the iconography for it is a broken cross, but then I find it hilarious that he said once upon a time that using AI or building AI is like summoning a demon.
Yes, I have heard that.
But now he's saying that now he's like, all right, yeah, but I'll go ahead and summon that
yeah.
demon, basically.
That alone should tip you off. Like, these people to me are characters. You know, they're not even like, not that they're not real people. Like, obviously they exist in physical form. Hello, I shook Donald Trump's hand. Like, he really exists. But they portray a certain character to suit the moment. So, you know, Elon starts out as this weird, like, autistic nerd man. And then when he gets up in front of a bunch of MAGA people at a Trump rally and says, you know, trans kids should not be able to like make these decisions without their parents. And everyone's like, heck yeah. And then they just like say these like little nuggets to people to get them riled up and emotionally invested. And then you, as a person who probably doesn't follow the news 24/7, because who has time for that? Nobody does. Or to research things on a deeper level, like maybe the three of us do, because we just have fun doing that. A lot of people don't have time or are interested in that. So they're just going to assume, okay, Elon's my guy because he thinks boys are boys and girls are girls. So now, therefore, I also believe everything else Elon tells me is good or true. It's like a logical fallacy that you start to form, right?
Yep.
Meanwhile, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, that Elon Musk has a trans kid himself. But like, I remember seeing him tweet something about that one time. And like, I was the only person who was like, don't you have a trans kid? Like, nobody else would even stop and think like one of his like 13 kids, however many friggin' kids he has, with like five different women. You know, this guy's just like breeding
It's like a
kids.
Mormon.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly. Well, I'm pretty sure he's Aurelian anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a whole other thing. But yeah, he's just like, let's populate the world and I'm gonna hide the fact that I have a trans kid, but I'm gonna tell everyone else what they want to hear.
Hmm.
Same with Trump. He'll say stuff that you want to hear, and that's why people get so excited about him. Because they're like, oh, finally somebody who's like standing up for common sense. Meanwhile, standing up for common sense and then slip in an mRNA vaccine in there. It's
Slip
like
that in
a,
there. Slip in the fact that he wants to do now, instead of 15-minute cities, he wants to do freedom cities, except the fine print, it's the exact same.
I didn't even hear about that.
You didn't
Freedom
hear about
cities.
that? Yeah, he called them
Mm-mm.
freedom cities. And then there was
Mm.
the fact that so the last administration let in all these illegal immigrants, right? And we heard that one of the governments in Europe, I don't recall which, I saw the clip. He came out and admitted that they've been doing a experiment on immigration for uh like the last however many years, just letting in people with open borders, and
Yeah.
then you get then you get Trump coming in and he's saying we want to do biometric scanning so that we can, see who is and isn't coming through our borders better. And I'm looking at that thinking this reminds me of 9/11. As soon as the planes hit the towers, they're going, okay, we're gonna sign the Patriot Act into effect, and basically what it means is we can survey better, but don't worry, we're just gonna survey terrorists, except documents that were eventually uh, revealed through the Freedom of Information Act, showed that they've been surveying their own people for since then. And so you can't convince me that it's not going to be the exact same thing where they go, here's the bait and switch. We bring in a bunch of illegal immigrants, make a bunch of people mad about it. And when your guy comes in, he'll deal with the problem. But dealing with the problem is actually a double-edged sword.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what we mean when we say like two wings of the same bird, right? You have one side that creates the problem and one side that institutes the solution. If it was the other way around, I don't think this plan would work. Like for
Hmm.
example, if for some reason Trump side, the right would have been the ones to like let in all these illegals, which I mean there was some of that going on, but not to the extent of like the last 4 years in America. That's been happening though in Europe for a long time, and it's a huge problem. But could you see like Biden or like Hillary like making these drastic reform? People wouldn't accept it the same way, you know? Same with even the vaccine, in 2020, 2021. If Hillary was president, I don't think it would have gone as successfully. I believe Trump was the one to bring it in on purpose, and I believe Trump now, like Nick said before, is the one to give the cure for the problem that they created to keep big pharma in business. And then you also have somebody around him too, RFK Jr., who I think is extremely problematic. I'm not a fan of his at all. He's run his entire career on defending the little guy. He's an environmental lawyer, yes, and basically garnering the trust of the entire anti-vax movement. Granola moms out there who want to, just protect their kids and like live an organic, healthy lifestyle. He's ridden that wave his entire career, only to turn around and say when it counts the most, I'm not anti-vax.
Hmm.
You know what a slap in the face that is to all the people who like brought him to where he is? Like that's crazy. That's just yeah, another example of like how they give you a bait and switch.
Well, and
And
a
it's
lot
like,
of
really, what side are you on, bro?
and a lot of his policies are pro globalism, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Something I do want to bring up that I think is a major issue and problem with one of Trump's connections is Peter Thiel. He actually owned the company that was like huge in distributing the COVID-19 vaccine all over the place. Like they were huge in actually getting it out and getting it to where it had to go, and it was all like there was all that panic. That made him a ton of money, and he did donate. Peter Thiel donated $40 million to Trump his last run, not this one, but the one before that, which is when we ended up needing that vaccine. Uh,
Well,
he gave JD Vance 10 million. Fun fact about Peter Thiel is that Gawker came out and outed him as a gay dude, and when that happened, Peter Thiel, to be petty, he funded Hulk Hogan's lawsuit against Gawker for when they released a video of him having sex with somebody. And isn't it interesting how you had Hulk Hogan ripping his shirt off for Trump this last election?
oh my God.
Peter Thiel also funds Steve Bannon's Rumble show, and he's been on the show before. And look at JD Vance. He was a never MAGA, and all of a sudden, $10 million by Peter Thiel changes his mind.
Yeah.
This guy, in my opinion, is actually running Trump.
Yo, for real.
Biden was arguing about gun control, and Trump said one of the ways that he would deal with it instead of gun laws is pre-crime. I was like, where the fuck are we going with that?
Yeah.
Peter Thiel's major thing, Palantir, which is when you see that picture of Trump and Elon Musk at that football game together, the advertisement right there in your face, Palantir, Peter Thiel's own company, Palantir is into pre-crime.
What's going to happen to the right is they're going to recognize as soon as if pre-crime is implemented, they're going to recognize real fast that wait a minute, we were the freedom guys and now we're taking it away. But
Yeah, I just was trying to look up, but just going off of what we're talking about now. There was a quote from Larry Ellison. He was talking a while back about how the AI surveillance state is going to ensure everyone is on their best behavior because everyone will be constantly monitored,
China.
right? China. And basically, Elon Musk is trying to build X into the app like China has called WeChat, which is an app that does everything like your social media, your banking, your, school registration, your state license, like whatever, it's going to be in charge of like your entire life. That's what he wants X to be. That's what he's been trying to do for a long time. Like people forget Elon Musk started X.com back in the 90s, which then became PayPal. So he's always been trying to like build these companies that encompasses your financial data plus your personal data, your shopping habits. Like he's been trying to do this for a long, long time. And now that he's got Peter Thiel in his posse, along with the President of the United States, along with the other most powerful people in the world, it's like this is going to be is that to me is the most disturbing thing about the Trump presidency is who he's decided to surround himself with,
There's
especially for the AI component. That is very frightening to me.
there's some cult that I'm looking into that actually ties into like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk.
With
Please.
the Zizians?
Yeah, yeah. Very weird.
I'm not
I
surprised.
forgot there was something that you said that made me like want to bring that up and go into something else. Lost it.
Yeah, it's I mean, haven't we seen all these movies?
Yep.
Like literally Minority Report is about this exact thing, like pre-crime. And how it's not great, actually. And like it's such a deception because they seem to be the right seems to be the side in this case that is upholding basic freedoms, constitutional rights, but then they're literally going to take away all your constitutional rights
Yeah.
with this surveillance in the name of safety,
Yeah, and
right?
that's what's wild to me is that we came out of this thing of like I'd rather be free than safe, but we're backing these people that are blatantly stating they want to take away our freedoms by things like pre-crime or by the biometric ID and everything. And that's the play, right? We know that the play is to get them to trust in the controlled opposition guy.
Mm.
That's always the play. Like, well, who wasn't it?
Trojan horse.
Hmm.
And a Trojan horse.
Exactly,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Trojan
literally.
horse. And isn't it what's his name? The Mason guy, Albert Pike, that basically stated that anytime that people need a hero, they will be the ones to provide.
Yeah, if the people need a hero, we will gladly provide it.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you guys before we started recording, I thought to ask this. Did you guys think he would win this time?
Yeah, I thought that maybe he would, and part of that is because I remember a handful of years ago, there was sort of this muttering going around about him being the last president. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
Ingersoll Lockwood thing.
I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly how it went. I just remember people saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was what is it, Nick? There was a book, The Last President by Ingersoll Lockwood, and I think the main character was like Barron Trump. Like that was
Uh,
his name or
yeah,
something.
yeah, but Trump has said something about him possibly being the last president, like joking around or some shit.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. And he said something along the lines of like, you won't have to vote for, or you won't have to worry about voting next
Yeah, that's what
anymore.
it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
not voting anymore. Yeah, yeah.
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 And the fact that
It's
they're trying to implement a third term kind of thing, which people have pointed out that we could end up with Obama again if that were to go through. And I'm like, oh, interesting.
I mean, this is like something that you can believe it or not believe it. I really don't care what people believe. But there was this like supposed Freemason whistleblower on there. What was his name? Jeremy. Jeremy the Freemason. He was a
Oh, who did
33rd
you tell me about?
degree. Yeah, 33rd or 32nd degree. Jeremy is talking about the Freemasonic plan for like the next few years. They would do something with the water, which I believe COVID may have had something to do with that in terms of like distributing illness. He was talking about how they have their underground bunkers ready for like if needed, if there's like a nuclear thing that goes down. Which there's a show called Paradise right now on Disney Plus, which is literally all about that. They literally live underground in Colorado, which is where he said they have all their underground shit. Um, after it seems to be a nuclear event. I have to catch up on the episodes to be sure. But also he was talking about how Trump is completely complicit with this plan, and he did say something about Trump being assassinated and that Trump would be complicit on the assassination or attempted assassination. This is in like 2019, 2020 he's saying this. So I really think, honestly, whatever they had planned 4 years ago, for some reason, got delayed to like now this presidential term for Trump. The plan just got like delayed 4 years for whatever reason. Either because Trump didn't win last time and maybe he should have, but I don't know about that. I think
I
Biden did have to come in and like mess things up exponentially to make Trump look like a slam dunk,
I
you know?
I agree with that. I remember seeing pictures of his ear and thinking like there's nothing missing. It looked like he just pulled one of his old WWE day tricks and squirted a little blood
Hulk,
on himself.
Hulk
If I'm
Hogan.
honest. Yeah. Yeah. That's what it looked like to me. I remember like just zooming in and like there were a bunch of super close photos and everything. I just remember thinking like I don't think he has an open wound there at all. Like you even if it just grazed him, you would see I cut my hands every day with the work that I do. Like almost every day there's a wound. You would see the splitting of flesh. There was no split flesh at all.
It
Um,
was ridiculous.
so I'm one of those crazy conspiracy guys that believes that that was faked. I
Also, in
really
my when that happened, I was like, "Oh my God, Jeremy was right."
am.
That happened. I was like,
It's
four
crazy.
years later, Jeremy's got it. Holy shit. I was like so like enthralled with the moment. And I kept trying to tell my parents that, who are like, just it's amazing to see their like awakening process. They're so adorable about it. But I'm just like, guys, like, I'm pretty sure the assassination attempt was not real. And I'm trying to explain to them why. And then they're like, I'm like, but it's a cult. He has to like die, and then like resurrect. And also, the last time, I don't know if Nick wants to talk about this at all, but like Trump is surrounded by like the number eight
Oh yeah,
constantly,
that
which
makes
is all about like death and rebirth. So when he lost last
sense.
time, I was like, he has to lose because then he's got to come back because he's dying and now he's got to be reborn. And he's surrounded also by a lot of like Apollo and Phoenix symbolism,
Yeah,
which is
so
all about like
let's
rebirth.
let's get into some of that then. Because I've always been under the impression that he's a Mason. Like even from his architecture, he in his office or something like a perfect representation of the Grand Lodge or something like that.
Oh, does he? I don't know about that.
They
I
do
remember seeing
have a
that,
lot of
but
stuff inside of like Trump Tower, Mar-a-Lago. In my opinion, has a lot of occult stuff in there. Sure.
yeah, yeah. I remember something about it. There was photo somewhere. It's honestly, it's probably in my photo roll somewhere, screenshot it. But how it looked, how it was like almost exact representation of the Grand Lodge, and then there's all that 666 stuff with like the pyramid, upside down pyramid stuff, and
Well, just some couple things off the top of my head. I mean, he does use the like double-headed bird, eagle, phoenix on his coat of arms for his golf courses and the
oh,
hotels, which is the Scottish Rite Masonic logo. It's literally the same thing, which is interesting. It's also a very fascist symbol, just saying. It's like the Roman imperial symbol, same thing from like Nazi Germany. Yeah, which it all comes from ancient Rome anyways. What else around him? I mean, his text number in the first campaign, and I think this one would have been the same, 88022. So we've got like the double eights, double twos, 22, I think is very Masonic, right, Nick?
Yeah, it can go with like Kabbalistic stuff. Like even the eight with him. Like it's this is just like Kabbalistically, I find that interesting because the eighth sphere is orange. They call him the orange man. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and we know that he is a Kabbalist, or at least was, because he did even talk about that in his book, The Art of the Deal, which was published when, in like the 80s or 90s?
True. That's true,
Maybe later, maybe the 2000s, like, I don't know, but
what is a Kabbalist?
Nick, we wanted to find that.
yeah. I mean, I guess it's somebody who's into the Kabbalah, which is like Jewish mysticism. But then there's like the Hermetic Kabbalah, which like attributes a whole bunch of different things to it. Start getting into like elements, planets, symbolism, just a whole bunch of different things besides just traditional Kabbalah.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
like the Kabbalah tree has different spheres, which are numbered and colored,
Yeah,
right? So when
yeah,
Nick was talking
different
about
colors.
the eighth sphere, right, which is Hod, right?
Yeah,
Which is the color is orange. And then they always call Trump like the orange man, bad. Orange also being, or Hod is also associated with Hermes, right?
yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah, Mercury. Yeah,
Mercury. And I just think that's interesting too. Because then he always is referring to himself, well, not always referring to himself, but he has a lot of like Apollo symbolism and very gold in his interiors, like in his home. I think that I remember seeing pictures of like his apartment in Manhattan, and
yeah,
it's
it's black
literally
and red,
like
and a lot of
ex
Apollo stuff.
a lot of Apollo stuff. Apollo and Hermes were brothers in the Greek pantheon and like besties. So I think that's interesting. I just feel like also like other people who cling to that Apollo symbolism, like another one I can think of is Drake. Like it's just a very like occult thing to like name yourself that and like put that on yourself and then like embody that energy as you have like literally a meteoric rise to like fame and power. Like it's very interesting, very egotistical, I think. It's like, are you putting that on yourself for an energetic reason to achieve a certain result?
One of the things I do want to like for the listener, one of the things for me, I tend to take the symbolism as sort of the cherry on top. I look at, the way that people, the way that people sort of bear their fruit, I guess, first, or the way their policies are and things that this stuff, it just the stuff that these guys on the right are doing, it just isn't lining up with the actual values of the right. And then you get into the symbolic stuff. Like it's so counter his base, which is mostly Christian.
Yeah.
It's not I just don't get how we've got a bunch of people right now coming out and being like, uh, Trump is God's hero and stuff when he's touting, almost like he's touting, I guess, less blatant satanic symbolism, but then the people around him are very blatant about it, and all that stuff. So when it comes to like the type of people that'll probably be listening to this, like I guess my challenge to them would absolutely be, like look at the fruit. Like even the Bible says to that you'll know them by their fruit. And if he is the saved man that people seem to think that he is, then his fruit
Mhm.
would be absolutely much better than it is, and it's just not. Um,
Yeah. Well, I
one,
think, sorry to interrupt
go
you.
ahead.
I think interestingly too, his choice in JD Vance was really strategic as a vice presidential running mate because JD is like a newer convert to Catholicism, which is weird to
Hmm.
me because I feel like he was trying to maybe encapture people who are even more conservative than like, not to say that American Christianity isn't conservative. It is, but like a more even more like traditional base. Like I'm just thinking of like my parents, for example. My parents were Canadian, but if my parents were American, they would totally be like, "Oh, wow, that's amazing. Like Trump, the vice president's going to be Catholic." And like because I think America has a little more of a disdain for like Catholicism than other parts of the world. It's an interesting like dichotomy down there.
Hmm.
But he chose him like purposely to capture that like ultra conservative base to feel safer. And then he'll throw in like these little bones here and there to people. Like he's been pardoning some people who were like arrested for protesting at like abortion clinics. So like pro-lifers. So, my parents were like, "Oh, that's amazing. Trump is the best. JD Vance is the best." And I'm like, okay. But like look at all the other things that they're doing. Or I'm trying to think of another thing. Oh, they had like held up or he had posted or tweeted like the prayer of Saint Michael the Archangel like on his Twitter. And I was like, ooh, okay, like maybe that's good. And I was like, maybe I don't know. I just feel like it's pandering.
It feels like it to me, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just like, okay, you say these things. It's like being in a relationship with a narcissistic abuser,
We know one of
which
those.
is,
Sorry, I shouldn't have
oh my
brought
God. Yeah,
that.
we do. Oh my God, that's true. Our former friend, that's right. Yeah, they'll tell you things to make you believe them and feel great, and then they'll just turn around and do the opposite thing. But then like love bomb you like the next day. So it's okay.
Yep,
This is what I believe is happening and has been happening with politics for a very long time.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they're trying to bypass eh, they're bypassing the Constitution and then claiming to uphold it. It's wild to me. But something I was just thinking of, you had said something about coat of arms earlier. Did you see him at the World Economic Forum? Did you see the thing about the coat of arms there?
No.
So, so the American coat of arms is the eagle with the wings spread, and in one foot it's got, or one talon it's got the arrows, and the other it's got the olive branch, right? So back in 1945, Truman had a signed an executive order that that coat of arms would always, the head of the eagle would always face the olive branch. And the idea behind it was that America would always look to peace but be ready for war. At the
Okay.
World Economic Forum, the coat of arms that Trump displayed behind him, the eagle is looking the opposite direction. It is looking at the arrows.
Oh,
Yeah. And
dang.
I haven't paid super close attention the last few weeks, but I have heard that he has talked about war. Have you heard about this?
Yes.
He
Oh.
told, I think, Hamas releases the hostages by Saturday. Shit's gonna pop off.
Okay. Okay. Maybe that's what I was hearing of. But I
Yeah.
just find it interesting that he would sort of do that symbolistic gesture at the World Economic Forum. It makes you wonder what's next. It makes you wonder, like, what's the direction we're heading in. I've
Yeah.
had plenty of prophetic people over the years feel like we're not that far off from some sort of boots on the ground.
He's
That's
already changed the maps.
what maps?
Well, we got the Gulf of America now. It's like you
Oh,
think about that.
that's funny.
You
Who
go on
gave
Google
him the
Maps now, and
right
it
to
says
do
that.
that?
He says he
Like
didn't even
how
ask Mexico. He said I didn't even ask him. We didn't even talk about it.
how narcissistic.
Well, to be fair, stuff like that is just name it and claim it, and then eventually, a few generations later, everybody will just accept it as true.
I guess if you say it on TV a few weeks before you do it and nobody calls you up, I guess nobody cares.
Well, and that's another interesting little thing. You mentioned earlier you were talking about complicity. Isn't one of their like the occult's entire thing is like tell you what they're gonna do and it in subtle ways, and if you don't say anything, then you're complicit.
Yeah, basically. It's a little bit crazy. Yeah, his whole I was kind of shocked, honestly, when he came out with the commentary about Gaza recently. He was saying
Oh
like,
yeah.
America's gonna
Over.
go in there, we're gonna own it, we're gonna develop it, it's gonna be great. And then people were questioning him about it, and he's like, well, why would the Palestinians even want to go back there? It's just like a rubble zone. Bro, because when the Israelis blew it up with US made weapons. Like, what? Like, sorry, this is insane.
I mean, just getting into this conversation in the first place, I feel like is gonna make a lot of people just decide to turn their ears off to me, and that's fine. But I felt like I needed to at least touch on this stuff and start opening the box and set expectations on what I see and what I think before I go too deep into this show, because I think people need to at least be aware of what I think and whether or not they agree with me or not on this position. You know, I think it's important because I've been on this sort of thing about killing your golden calves kind of a idea lately, where when it comes to the church, I'm very frustrated with the double-mindedness, the idols that we have made of
Mm.
political leaders and politics and right-wing ideologies. A lot of right-wing ideologies are great. I support a lot of them. There's a handful of left-wing ideologies that I support too, but you're not going to see me bowing down to any political figure or ideology over another one just for the simple fact that it's like quote unquote the Christian one when it's really not.
That's a very good point. I think, yeah, something for people to just keep in mind is like, don't become invested in anything. When I think, that's something that Jesus talks about a lot is, you're in the world, but you're not of this world,
Mm.
right? So don't overly look to leaders to solve your problems or expect them to really like come up with any great solution to anything. Like these guys are just going to play the game that they've always played.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's what power does. What's the saying? Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, you could be the best of intentioned leader, but eventually I think, you're gonna have to play along to a degree, however deep that is for some leaders over others, maybe, but I think ultimately, Jeremy the Freemason was probably right
Yeah.
about like Trump's role in the
Yeah.
situation. Even you have the that witch lady, Marina
Oh,
Abramovic.
yeah.
I meant to touch on this. Yeah.
She said it's
Right.
great that Trump is president. She said he's like a magician. He reveals and then he gets people to like do his will. Hey?
MAGA is like the highest level of
Well, the
the
temple is
Church of
said.
Satan, right?
The temple is said, yeah, magus slash magus. Yes.
It means basically magician, and it's the highest level in the Church of Satan, right? So it's like that's a weird. You can't tell me that it was just an accident because as bad at PR as Trump may be, his team could not have overlooked that. There's no way.
He's not bad at PR, I'll tell you that. He's
I agree.
excellent at PR.
But
Yeah.
that's the excuse that people make for him is that he's just
Ooh,
bad
no.
at PR and he just says whatever he thinks and it goes with it.
No, and then if you have Elon Musk on a stage saying, I'm Dark MAGA,
Or black magus or
after,
something.
after Dark MAGA, that's what he called himself.
Oh, wow.
After he wore the Baphomet costume, after he's worn a suit jacket that says New World Order, after he's dated and had kids with Grimes, who is so cryptic, or not so cryptic, in her tweets and posts with like, vaccine emojis everywhere and like aliens and basically like implying there's going to be like some huge world event in like 2019. She like tweeted out all these like cryptic messages. Her if you want to get into like her dad was involved in like Canadian like bioengineering. Like there's a whole twisted web of people just orchestrating our future. The thing that I think Trump is good at is showing you, like, ultimately, honestly, he is like the best troll, the best at it. Because he's literally telling you, like, don't trust me, don't trust these guys. Yet we're gonna, well, the majority of people are still gonna probably do it anyways. Like, that's the messed up part. He is revealing a lot of stuff, even with like the US AID audits that are going on, which Elon is apparently in charge of, and he's showing like how much money went to like literally like social deception. But then Nick, you brought up a good point. We were talking about it a while ago, and you said, why didn't he do that audit last presidency?
Yeah.
Why this one?
I didn't get that. I was like, well, why'd you have to wait till the second time to do this? Why did you do this right before the last to show the people how fucked up it really is?
Precisely.
Right?
Precisely.
It's all like part of a script, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
maybe out of this audit or whatever, he's gonna have to call for a new system, And maybe that's where we'll get this like, oh, no more elections business. No more this, no more that. It's got to be this way, got to be that way. So we're very much running similar to a dictator at the moment.
Yeah, we're not far from already being out from underneath the Constitution entirely anyway. There's certain ways that people can still get themselves back under the Constitution, but if they completely do away with it, it's, freedom's gone. And in order to change the system for that to be the case, which I kind of wonder if they've gaslit people enough to make them think that, like, yeah, that would be a good idea. Like, let's start over, which honestly, on some level, we do need to start over, or at least go back and eradicate everything post 14th Amendment. Um, but uh but the way that they would at this point redo everything, if we did get everybody to just agree, like, yeah, let's just start over, it would not be good at all, for sure. Um,
Yeah.
One other thing I was thinking about is in regards to the church and sort of their approach to Trump. I've seen a ton of people claiming that, like, oh yeah, God put him in position. And my belief is that God does put people in positions, but I don't think it's in the way that people think that he did. Because most people are like, oh, he's God's hero. He's the one that's gonna bring the nation back to the way that it needs to be, and he's gonna bring people back to God and set the nation straight. And I actually think of King Saul when Israel was like, we demand a king, and God was like, a king will be a curse to you. And
Yeah.
then they were like, "Yeah, but we want a king." So he gave him a king, and it was Saul, and he ended up like not being a good guy, and it was a curse to them. And granted, they got David next, but then after that, just about almost every king, most of Judah's kings and all of Israel's kings were corrupt and a curse against. And I genuinely believe um, that's what Trump is to the nation. He's a curse to the people that wanted him,
Mm,
that cried out for him, because especially when it comes to the church, I genuinely feel as though the people that have turned to him instead of to God, I feel like they're gonna regret their decision before
yeah.
too long.
I think Trump operates like similar to what you're harping on, Thomas. He operates very much like a judge from like the Book of Judges. He's a judge on the nation,
Mhm.
and it's not necessarily that he's like a good person. It's just that he has this role in like revealing things. Is that necessarily ultimately good? I mean, we could
Yeah,
say, if we're believers, that God ultimately orchestrates all things for good in the end. Doesn't mean it's gonna get not gonna get bad in the meantime,
right.
right? And the Freemasonic motto is order out of chaos. Order ab chao. That's literally what they believe. So, I mean, orchestrating a lot of chaos to create order, but whose order is it? The one that they see fit or God's natural righteous order? I don't know.
Precisely.
You know, but God has his
Precisely.
hand on all things, so don't worry about it.
Absolutely. But it does take a revealing. You've got to reveal. I mean, I think this is revealing the hearts of a lot of people. There's a lot of people that have turned from what they hold to be true, in an attempt to get behind the political thing right now, because they believe that it's what will save them, and it's just not. Because it's a theater, and it's a trap. It really is, and I believe that. If I believed in the whole, um, choose the better option, or if I didn't believe that the whole thing was corrupt on both sides, then yeah, I would absolutely probably have voted for Trump. But I actually, I just feel like it's like voting at this point is almost like taking part in a humiliation ritual, if I'm honest. And so, and again, I don't believe that it's fruitful, so I don't. Because our government is a corporation. It's not even a government anymore. All that said, well, thanks guys for listening to another episode of the French Faith Podcast, and yeah, do the subscribes and all the things. Teresa and Nick, you guys want to kind of let people know what shows you guys are doing, and we'll call her.
Yeah, so if people want to hear more from me and also Nick, we have the Spiritual Gangsters podcast, which is on YouTube and all the audio platforms. And you can find me on X and Instagram at TS Gangsters Pod.
And the Occult Rejects, which Teresa is on there quite oftenly as well. That's on BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, and all major podcasts. Thank you very much.
I can't actually really have a discussion about Trump without speaking about dreams. I just always have been a dreamer of dreams, and it's just one of the most powerful and most persistent ways that God speaks to me. And I have never in my life ever dreamt of a celebrity or politician. And yet in the last 5 years, I have had many, almost a dozen, I'd say, dreams and visions of Trump. So to me, I really don't have a choice. I have got to pay attention to that. And if I were to point to one or two of the most formative dreams in kind of like shaping my understanding of who this man is or aspects of him the Lord wants to reveal, then I would have to tell you about a dream I had 2 weeks ago. So it was a dream that still has an echo of horror to it. It's really, really hard to recall because of the feelings that it brings up. But in the dream, Trump was standing on a platform of sorts in the middle of a water feature that reminded me of something you'd find at a big fancy casino, like a place where people would gather outside maybe for a fireworks display. It was like a man-made lake of sorts. And he was wearing a white mask, and the mask was shaped like his own face. So there really wasn't any guesswork as to who was wearing it. It looked like his face, but white ceramic. And it was leering. It had this leering grin. And yes, it 100% reminded me of Via's for Vendetta. And then even, and more historically, it reminded me of the Guy Fawkes mask. He was standing on the platform with the event host, and it was a woman, and she kind of exemplified the standard for beauty for a public figure. She was a petite woman with her hair all done, and she had like a feminine fragility to her. She was really lovely. And I could hear and sense the swell of a crowd at my back. But I knew that it was a televised event and that the crowds that were physically there didn't even hold a candle to the vast quantity of viewers that were going to be watching this event through their screens. Suddenly, Trump hurls backwards into the dark water and he takes the woman with him. And as they went below the surface, that's when my spirit started to scream with horror. It was a knowing that something really, really horrific was happening under the water. And the dream locked my gaze on the water. Even in the dream, I was trying to hold my hand up in front of my face to stop me from seeing what might happen. When I watch a scary movie, I do the same thing. I am actually that person that puts my hand in front of my eyes and peeks out through a little crack in my fingers. Well, in the dream, it didn't work. I could see right through my hand. I was being forced to see. And the woman resurfaced. Trump never did, but the woman resurfaced. And there was this moment where the horror on her face, she deliberately wiped it away because she remembered that her job was to put on a good show. And so she tried to laugh. And she looked into the camera and she said something like, "Well, folks, he's really going for it." And then she made a really disturbing joke about, you know, how in high school you would refer to first, second, third, fourth base as a euphemism for how far you've progressed sexually with your boyfriend. She said something like that, like, "We're at the halfway mark. He's really going for it." And then she was yanked violently under the surface again. And when she came up the next time, she didn't have any more words. She couldn't even try and put on a good show anymore. She actually went silent. And she was hauled under again. And then minutes later, she'd resurface, and her eyes got more and more vacant. She was less and less alive, more of a husk, like a rag doll. And she was being destroyed right there in public. Nobody made a move. Nobody jumped in the water to save her. There was actually total silence, just the water, as it was churned up every time she went up and under again. And she was just slowly destroyed, in plain sight, just under the surface of the dark water. In a nutshell, that is what I have sensed. Not just from Trump, but here and there, all over the place. In movies, in certain music, in certain people around me. It's like in my spirit I am feeling the grinning mask laughing at us. As if it's saying to me, I know you see what we're up to, but they don't. And we're going to keep doing it. And we're going to get away with it right in front of their faces. A week after I had the dream, I came across a blog post written by a woman named Laura Sanger. She wrote an essay in 2 parts. It was called We Do Not Consent. And what she wrote in part 1 just slammed home a confirmation for me. She spoke about an occult tactic called revelation of method. And she said how that's used is to reveal sinister agendas in plain sight, but cloaking them in subtext and symbolism. The alchemical principle of revelation of method has at its chief component a clown-like grinning mockery of the victim as a show of power and macabre arrogance. When this is performed in a veiled manner, accompanied by certain occult signs and symbolic words, and elicits no meaningful response of opposition or resistance from the targets, it is one of the most efficacious techniques of psychological warfare and mind rape. That was my dream. That was my dream. For whatever reason, I seem to be wildly sensitive to that technique out there in the world. And there's one other dream I have to talk about to kind of round out where I'm at with regards to Trump and with regards to actually everything going on the political stage. My mom passed away about 8-9 years ago now, and she shows up in my dreams every now and then, and this was one of those dreams. She showed up in my bedroom, and she was so urgent. And weirdly, as dreams can be, there were 2 waterfalls spilling from the ceiling of my bedroom. One of them was red, and one of them was blue. It's like they were made up of little round beads, or marbles or something. And my mom was having us gather a mixture of both the red and the blue into jars, almost like she was preparing a concoction for everybody in the family to ingest, almost as a kind of inoculation. And what she told me was, you need it to protect you from what is coming. And I was immediately aware of the red and blue as the colors for our 2 main political parties. And this works for Canada and the US because each of our countries only really have 2 political party options at the moment, and they're represented by red or blue. And so this dream, among many, many other things that I have seen and sensed, spoke to me about how there was deception on both sides. I don't yet know if they're working for the same side or if they're just both equally corrupted. I just know that I have not been able to vote for either party for the past few elections. Interestingly, in Laura Sanger's essay that I mentioned, she actually addresses this too. Quote, I was prepared to vote for Trump again this past election, but this time the Lord told me not to vote for president. I asked the Lord why, and he told me it was because of the mixture Trump is involved in. He did not want me aligned with that mixture. Isn't that interesting? And then she went on to explain how 2 things can be true at the same time, and that just adds to the confusion in everybody's minds. So she said, The Greeks used a linear logic that flows in steps, from premises to conclusions, each step linked closely to the next in a coherent, rational, logical fashion, while Hebrew thinking allows us to draw conclusions based on both and, rather than either or. With this in mind, is it not possible that Trump is both exposing the fruitless deeds of darkness, on one hand, and participating in them simultaneously? And is it not possible for Elon Musk to both be exposing corruption and money laundering through his work, while also advancing a dark agenda through Neuralink? That is what I have been seeing for years now. A twisted collusion of sorts to herd us like dumb, scared sheep from one extreme to the next by creating chaos and disruption. So we become desperate for somebody to come save us. Trump is just another one of those saviors. I don't think he's going to save anybody. But the final thing that I have to say is that while I have had many dreams, words, visions about the darkness that Trump is very likely wrapped up in, they've been tempered with other dreams and other words that seem to suggest that the story's not over yet. It's as though the Lord is telling me, you cannot close the case on this man. I'm not done with him yet. The most searing image he gave me was of Trump in what I now know is the bathroom of his jet, leaning over a sink in his fancy bathroom, heavy with weariness, loneliness, just the weight of everything. And I was given a strong impression that I needed to pray love over him, that he would understand it, receive it somehow. And so I'm just clinging to that Hebrew thinking that two things might be true, that he might at the moment be wrapped in darkness, very much in the grip of it, and yet be set free from it. It's not too late. And so I'm keeping my heart open to that. I'm forcing myself to cling to some kind of hope that that's possible.